Hey guys, how are you? It's been a while, and I'm happy to be back. Might be wondering why I'm carrying this towel. Um, I was just camping outside. I have this rooftop tent on my car, and I just love to spend time in nature. That's why this night I was sleeping outside, and now I'm on my way to having a bath. And there's like this little forest river. So it's just so powerful to spend time in nature. And um, but this is not especially what I want to talk about today. It's related, it's very closely related, but what I wanted to share with you is something that has come to me as an increasingly clear realization over the past few months and probably years. It has come to a point where it's just so evident that I thought I'll share it with you and see it might be helpful for you. When we talk about yoga and meditation, we always aim at touching a dimension which is beyond the physical. And that includes even the more subtle forms of the physical, which is our mind. And our mind is obviously not just a physical thing in that sense, but it's much more complex. It has many, many layers. But also when we talk about our thought process, you might have noticed that so much time during your day, I'm not sure if you're aware, we're in our thoughts, and it's easy to become identified with it, and it's very easy to get like trapped in a way in this thought existence. Just try this out for a day, try to be aware of how many times you are completely lost in your thoughts. And when I say lost, I mean that you follow a thought trail, not being aware of the fact that you're in the thought trail, and suddenly after maybe 5 or 10 minutes you find yourself coming out of it, and it's like almost like you were on this unconscious dream state or something. And then it's like we see everything around us through that lens, and probably we miss most of us most things around us, because when we're in the thought and when we're unconscious, we're not really aware of what's going on. So now when we do yoga and meditation, we want to move beyond that layer and beyond that dimension and touch something which is beyond thought. And many masters have talked about meditation and what it means. Obviously, it's not just sitting and doing something. It's really one particular master, I don't recall his name right now, he said that meditation is when you enter a space of no thought. And when we practice meditation, that doesn't necessarily mean we are in a meditative state yet. We're trying to get there. Maybe we are there sometimes, maybe we're not. But then we're basically practicing to, not harbor any thoughts. So to say, just to let them pass. Sometimes you observe them, but not to stick to them. And that is very powerful. And so that brings me back to the nature, because in nature it's sometimes very easy to touch that dimension when you are aware of your senses. And this is also something that Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about, and Sadhguru also, and many other masters, that when you're very attentively paying attention to your senses, whether it's listening to the birds, whether it's smelling the flowers, whether it's looking at a tree or some leaves, and you really pay attention to it, then you notice that in that first moment, when you pay attention, when you're listening, when you're smelling, there's not really room for thought. So it's like an entry gate into this thoughtless or beyond thought, the space beyond thought. And it sounds very kind of, simple, and why is this such a big thing? But that's the interesting part, when you are entering that space. What happens to me is that many things, but one thing is I feel very, very energized after, just a few moments beyond thought, and not like falling under thought, which means, falling asleep or something, but rising beyond, above thought, in that sense that I was just speaking about. I feel very much, super energized. And also what you might notice, and I invite you to try this and, share in the comment, I love to read it, is that you might get something like an inspired thought, which is like a creative thought, something that is actually, something original, something more fresh and new, and you feel it's arising from a deeper point. You feel it's kind of not attached to your egoic structure. It's not about the usual, like, okay, survival, problem solving, opinions, issues, fears. Just pay attention how much of our thoughts are related to these things, So let's call them for a moment like basic, egoic, or compulsive thoughts, okay? But the other thought that can arise out of these conscious moments, which are beyond thought, these can be creative, inspired, original thought. And they say that many of the the artists and whatever creatives, they gain their maximum insight in those moments when they were beyond thought. Where it's, maybe Albert Einstein, like scientists who had these deep insights, or painters who did very inspiring paintings, or musicians, that they have these kind of inspired thoughts. So that's just one aspect of it, one benefit of it, but obviously it's much, much deeper, because I feel what we're doing when we're entering that space of beyond thought is that we're actually connecting with the divine, with the source. So, now I'm trying to look at it this way, to keep it simple and practical, How can I deal with that? I'm thinking, okay, try to observe myself during the day, okay, in which state am I right now? Am I right now in a compulsive thought mode, which probably I'm still 90% or more of the day? Or am I right now in the creative state, in the beyond thought state? Do I want to practice right now to go consciously into no thought? When you take a walk, pay attention if you're compulsively starting to think about something, which the mind always does, because it's kind of the job that we give it. Or are you trying to practice consciously to move beyond it? And then ask yourself, am I right now moving into beyond thought, or am I stuck in thought? Because if you can make this clear distinction, and if you can pay attention during the day how many times you are in which zone, it's the first most important step to recognize the issue. When you are compulsively thinking about things without doing it deliberately, consciously, because you say, okay, now I need to take the time to solve this, or plan this, or do whatever, but it's compulsive. If you realize this distinction, then you can shift time from, let's say, the compulsive thinking mode into the creative, inspired, let's say, maybe even source connected divine brain that you can connect with when you are moving beyond the, let's say, narrow dimension of our thought. I hope this makes any sense. This distinction is very, very fundamental, I believe, and it's very powerful to move into the other dimension. And so I would love to, hear how if you try this out, how it goes for you, and also let me know if this distinction makes sense between, let's say, the narrow compulsive thinking mode and the, let's call it the divine connection, which is beyond our narrow mind. Let me know if that distinction makes sense. Please leave a comment if you do, and also let me know how it goes if you practice this. I can share more tools to do this. I wish you a wonderful week, guys, and I'll plan to post more frequently again now. So happy to be back. Bye, guys.